It's been 5 years since the release of Cyberpunk 2077 and it's been quite some journey. The game has evolved so much since the first day playing it, its extended media has grown and new games have boosted the fan base, as well as Phantom Liberty being one of the best expansions CD PROJEKT RED has ever released to this date. Maybe that sounds like I'm a shill for this game, but honestly without it this channel would not be where it is today, and because of that I am so grateful for its stories, its lore, its extended media and all of the opportunities it has given me. With that said, there are still many things up in the air about the game that have been touched on, but are still pretty mysterious, and that will be the topic of discussion in today's video. Maybe these will be story beats that will be explored in Cyberpunk 2 or Orion or whatever it's called, or maybe these are specific things that link to V and their dealings with the relic. So let's get our theory caps on and explore some of the mysteries left within the Cyberpunk 2077 universe. But to celebrate 5 years of Cyberpunk, I was sent this incredible limited edition collector's item from the team over at VITURE. This is the Cyberpunk 2077 5th anniversary edition of the VITURE Luma Cyber XR glasses that allow you to play games, watch shows and browse on the go. This is the box right here and it's stunning with a mirrored effect on the Cyberpunk logo on the front. Open it up, we get that beautiful Makoshi yellow design, and inside is where all the goodies are, including this amazing piece of artwork of V, as well as your unique tag, the space capsule design glasses case with a Makoshi yellow inside, 5th anniversary collector stickers to put on your case or wherever you want them to be on display, and of course the main event, the XR glasses themselves. Only 10,000 of these exist in the world and they have had their design crafted by CD PROJEKT RED themselves, showing off that Makoshi color once again with the semi-translucent Neo infused design, also displaying the corporation of Kuroshi on the side, making you feel like you got hold of that top shelf chrome right there. Not only that, but when you get them connected you get this beautiful neon cyber light that glows on the end of the frame. I mean, that's pretty awesome. But booting them up is where the power of VITURE's game-changing technology begins. These glasses display a 152-inch virtual display that has a 120Hz refresh rate and 1500 nits of brightness, making Night City absolutely pop off the screen when you're playing it, and thanks to the cables provided you can play this wherever you feel most comfortable or on the go, as it can be connected to PC, Steam Deck, Asus ROG Ally, the Switch 2 and many more devices. And the best feature about this, it has a unique 3D mode, or the brain dance feature, that allows you to experience all of this in 3D. So finally I'm able to witness the beauty of the neon metropolis as if I was V themselves. As mentioned, there are only 10,000 of these limited edition Cyberpunk 2077 5th anniversary XR glasses with all of the extra collector's items with it, so once they are gone, that is it. You can get yours today utilizing my link provided by VITURE. So if you love the look of these XR glasses as much as I do, make sure you get them quick before they are all gone. You will not be disappointed, I guarantee it. Thank you so much to VITURE for these goodies and sponsoring this video, and with that all said, let's dive into our first mystery, which conveniently enough contains the use of brain dances as well. During V's whole journey, there is one character who turns up here and there and talks to them about the meaning of life, finding comfort in things around them, and is like a spiritual healer for V during their time of madness and bloodshed. For the most part, the Zen Master is of course a great piece of world building, similar to the sit-down monologues with Johnny and the other characters. However, it's still a bit of a mystery about who exactly this Zen Master actually is. Why does he suddenly turn up almost like he is specifically there for V and V alone? And with that, there is one line that makes it seem like there is a big mystery about what is going on, and that comes from Johnny, who goes on to state that he never once saw the Zen Master and doesn't know what V is talking about. This immediately asks the question, is the Zen Master actually real, or is he so powerful that he can silence any and all cyberware on an individual to bring them back to the real world and have them focus on what life is all about instead of having their chrome think for them and interfere with their neurons? I have a theory about the Zen Master and who he could be, however it's based off some lore that isn't technically canon on the speaking of this, as it comes from some some in-game lore from the new card game of Night City Legends. The game is endorsed by the creator of Cyberpunk, however, but that's not saying that as of right now that lore is indeed fact. However, if it does become real, I think it could definitely explain a bit more about how the relic works and how Arasaka cyberware works as well. In 2012 in Night City Legends, leading into Never Fade Away in 2013, Arasaka have been trying to break into a new form of cyberware. This was before the creation of their Soul Killer program. Supposedly, they had started working on their own form of engram technology that could preserve human consciousness, memories, skills, reflexes, and many other things on a single piece of cyberware. This whole concept wasn't actually speculation, it was in fact true, as it had been public knowledge, or at least corporate knowledge for a good while. But Arasaka clearly must have felt like they were the ones who were going to make it big and sell it internationally as the next type of groundbreaking cyberware. The vague reports indicate that this wasn't designed as a weapon like that of Soul Killer later in their history. Instead, this technology was said to allow individuals to learn skills and gain new reflexes within a second, all through the power of some brand new cyberware. You want to learn how to be a black belt in karate? Well, this piece of cyberware has the memory of a karate legend on it, and so forth. It was supposed to be a new wave of cyberware, ones that gave you not just a physical change, but a mental one as well, with brand new reflexes, mental capabilities, and all of that. At least that was the plan during this point in history anyway. The technology didn't work, however, and led to them seeking out Alt Cunningham to make the Soul Killer work for them in the future during the Fourth Corporate War, and later with the relic prototypes. This is where I think the Zen Master might come into it. I have a feeling that inside of the relic is a piece of software or an AI that is the Zen Master that is loaded into it, similar in style to how the 2012 cyberware wanted to be like it if it was true. And during those moments where an individual utilizing Arasaka high-grade hardware is on the brink of a meltdown and breaking down into cyber psychosis, the Zen Master will appear when and where they need them and bring them back to a calm state. Cyber psychosis being linked with some high-end Arasaka cyberware would be devastating for their profits, so I would not be surprised if this was a thing. I mean, in the Corpo beginning, V is given a life coach as part of their job within the Arasaka Corporation, so clearly Arasaka has some awareness of keeping their workers sane to some extent. That's all, they highly encourage it anyway. The Zen Master just seems to always come at the perfect time during V's life. They always turn up after a major event, and yes, granted you can seek them out on your own, but it just seems too convenient. Johnny not being able to see the Zen Master also makes perfect sense with them being a piece of software or an AI. Johnny can see everything that V sees. He's able to see Songbird's projection only because she taps into the black wall to make an appearance, something that the relic does to some extent, but somehow he can't see the Zen Master. I think this has to be a piece of software or an AI in the relic chip or programming that can silence all cyberware for a moment, bring the individual back into the real world, and stop any cyber psychotic moments that might be starting, and then when that moment is over, it brings it all back and they are free to continue their life as normal once again. Would this not be an extremely interesting thing to sell for rich corpo individuals? It seems like something that perfectly fits their way of life and would only boost their productivity. V ending the final meeting with the Zen Master stating they had a massive headache after it only makes more sense to me that this is all in their head once again, or at least in the cyberware in their head anyway. Maybe the Zen Master is real and maybe he's just an AI that roams the world and he's just incredibly in tune with who needs their help at the right time. But the fact that he is so on it with when to appear, as well as being incredibly proficient with BDs, to me he has to be a piece of Arasaka software or an AI in V's head. And this is exactly why Johnny cannot see him. But who knows? If he appears in the next game where the character doesn't have a voice in their head, then maybe that changes the whole thing. Maybe he's something like a G-Man mental health expert or something even more developed than that. A mystery that to this date still baffles me, and is something I stumbled on much later in my Cyberpunk lore years, and to some extent it is solved, but you can never really trust CD PROJEKT RED to be truthful when they have finished something. I'll also note that I still get confused by this whole mystery, so if you want a detailed explanation about what it is, you'll have to seek out other channels. However, FF06B5 is a mystery and cryptic puzzle that has been in the game since around patch 2.0. It's also known to many as the Magenta Mystery. Outside side of the Arasaka Tower there seems to be a weird statue that seems to be holding an ornamental sword, and underneath it there is a code FF06B5, which is the code for the colour of magenta. This isn't the only statue out there, but is seen as the main one and the first spotted with the code. One of the first things found when this statue first appeared in the game with the code and people started researching into it was a new location out within the Biotechnica farmlands. This was a church that had been fully renovated, and within it was an arcade machine surrounded by lots of cables and computers with a terminal that had a message labelled "A New Beginning," speaking of how inside the game there was a key hidden behind a secret wall. Playing the game, it would appear to be a Doom-style game of Johnny's journey into Arasaka Tower during the events of 2023, and when venturing around, one room hidden behind a secret wall would have magenta walls on it and the very same statue as well, with the numbers 940204 written on the walls. You eventually exit the tower, and when you do, your game will display your score as that very same code again, FF06B5. Ultimately, players would be sent all over the city solving cryptic puzzles, reading terminals that contain the name Polyhistor, and would have you doing things with your game that were just completely insane. The rabbit hole just kept growing and growing with theories for a good while as players would dive into the arcade game desperate to uncover new things and clues for what this was leading to. Even an image appeared within the Witcher 3 Next Gen update that was magenta in colour and had the same symbols on it as well, clearly showing that this puzzle was multi-dimensional. Eventually, after 2.0.1's patch, players found coordinates for a location out within the Badlands, and when getting there, they would only find a mattress. But then if standing there at 4 AM, a reference to one of Grimes' songs from the soundtrack, a cutscene would trigger where V would have a relic malfunction, and with it, a vision of a cube with warning text on the screen, and after that, an individual would then watch over your collapsed body. Despite all of these things being eventually added into the game, with the somewhat ending with this sphere or cube or whatever it is, it still never really explained what the magenta code was all about, or the FF06B5, and most have come to the theory that it was actually a joke by CD PROJEKT RED, and it actually references the missing textures found when the game first launched, as a lot of things feature magenta missing texture files on them due to poor bugs and optimization. And actually at some point during the mission Killing in the Name, Johnny will even joke about how you are just being led on, and at the end you'll just be shown a dick. And some people have actually found one that is of course magenta in colour, and when seeing it, Johnny will quote, "Whoa, it's like symbolic." On the other side of things, the statue and the magenta code is almost like a look into what the whole concept of what Cyberpunk 2077 and Cyberpunk as a whole is all about: existentialism. Something that Paul Sasko, associate game director, has talked a lot about in regards to the game and its design concepts. I can't take credit for this theory, I'm sure many have discussed this idea, but it was the channel known as Daka that highlighted this theme to me, stating that this statue is unlike anything in this world. Ultimately, it's just a statue and doesn't actually do anything. But we as the players have given it a purpose. We have sought out what the meaning of it is, despite there being no real evidence to prove that it's got any purpose at all. It's almost like this whole statue is a message to the players. It's trying to show that we as humans always want answers, always want to come up with reasons for why we do things, and it's what keeps us going as a species. This can be through religion, society, and pretty much anything we do. The problem was, people became obsessed by this statue and believing it had some significance, and because of it, even CD PROJEKT RED caved to it, hence the adding of features in 2.0 and 2.0.1, because those features helped those theorists find a resolution. Ultimately, it is solved. I mean, the cube cutscene is the final thing you can find, but is that really what this was all about? Or was it something much more extravagant than just to chase the clue's story? Was it a bit of world building, explaining the human condition of always wanting to search for an answer? Is it trying to show the desperate nature of people like V who have to keep looking and looking until they ultimately die and then they find the answer? Not that it matters anymore. The puzzle is just so complex that it takes theorists hundreds of hours to find things, and in the end it's still extremely complex and the answer raises even more questions. The other thing is, Powell has stated before that he will acknowledge the final answer when someone has found it, but to this date, unless I'm being completely mistaken, he is still being silent. So maybe the answer is still out there, or maybe it isn't. Maybe there isn't an answer at all, and all of this is just a big joke by the devs because of a texture error in the first release. The whole FF06B5 is baffling to me, and it blows my mind watching people go through all of the steps. But to me personally, I just feel like it's a wild goose chase that is ultimately pointless, and it's just there to enhance that message of existentialism. The final quote from all of this clue searching I think perfectly encapsulates all of this, and I will finish this section on it as it reads, "You've been looking long enough. You can stop now. It's over." Or is it? No, really, it is. One thing ends, another begins. Except nothing's beginning or ending. That's just your gonk mammal brain trying to make sense of the world, to create order, to control, to try to delay the inevitable realization that you're nothing. We're nothing. Mathematics, physics, chemistry, in the grand scheme of things, nothing but tools to acquire power. Hardly more advanced than the first rock we grabbed to bash each other's skulls. Isn't that liberating? You're welcome. Go, be free, frolic like the over-evolved primates you are. And for all of you seekers and fools finding patterns where there are none, creating order out of chaos, here's a little secret for you. This isn't the first time we've met, and it won't be the last. But for now, you can rest easy. Celebrate your adorable little achievement by cracking open a brosif and marveling at being the only creature on this planet with opposable thumbs. Just don't read too deep into it. In the grand scheme of things, you get the gist. Catch you around, Choombata. The next is probably the most talked about point in all of Cyberpunk 2077, and that is, who is Mr. Blue Eyes? Mr. Blue Eyes appeared as a very small side character who could be seen within the final mission of the Perez quest, watching over a balcony where Perez wants to meet with you, and then in the Sun ending of the game where he gives you the final gig that you go on, sending you up to the Crystal Palace for the raid of your life and to hopefully find the answers you need from it. After that, he never really played a part in the overall story. However, in side quests with the beggar next to Misty's, this man and crazed conspiracy theorist talks about creatures from another planet with blue eyes watching over all of us and wanting to control us. This seems extremely fitting considering the Perez quest, we find that his brain is being completely manipulated by someone or something, being used to be turned into essentially a puppet for whatever this organization was. The same was happening with Sandra Dawson, who discovered all of this information from the Night Corp databases which she worked for. That was before being captured by paid-for scavs and taken to their horrific hideout before V and Jackie saved her life. It was an extremely frustrating storyline, especially for me considering it sort of just ends and we never got anything else from it during that time. Then Phantom Liberty came out and Mr. Blue Eyes appeared once again, watching over the whole of the Taicho station where Orbital Air are reconstructing it whilst V and Songbird are escaping. He doesn't watch over V specifically, but almost plays a G-Man style of role, as if he knows exactly what is going to happen and when. He's then seen again as you are leaving with the completely broken Songbird after she has obliterated the terminal utilizing her powers of the Blackwall. Once again, however, it never brought about any answers about who Mr. Blue Eyes actually was, and only raises even more theories. Why was he allowed into a closed off orbital air area under strict lockdown? How did he get past all of the top NUSA soldiers who are the best of the best? There's many theories out there about who Mr. Blue Eyes could be. Maybe he actually is another being from another dimension watching over everything that happens under the guise of being a human in this world. I mean, it wouldn't be the craziest theory considering we've pretty much heard that Ciri from The Witcher has visited a place that fits the description of Night City. There's also the being of Gauntero Dim who can get from place to place with a click of his fingers and can pull strings in situations to manipulate them to what he wants. Granted, he was shut down by Geralt, but I doubt we'd seen the last of him. And honestly, linking back to the G-Man again, he is a being that is of unknown origin, and we do not know where he comes from or what his motives are. Looking extremely similar to each other, it could be that CD PROJEKT RED are just playing around with that idea and concept as well. However, it's the blue eyes that are the biggest factor in all of this. During any interaction with anyone, when they connect to the net or cyberware or anything, their eyes glow blue in a similar style, and Mr. Blue Eyes obviously has this going on all of the time, making it feel like he is in constant communication with someone or something. AI is a massive talking point in the Cyberpunk universe and has been around since the early days of the game. Back in 2020, we had rogue AIs, or at least concepts, and the major one was the regional AIs who ran a whole area such as Pacifica or other areas of America. These AIs are extremely interesting because it is brought about by Raish Bartmoss that these AIs don't just inhabit the net, they are in fact the net themselves. Everything that happens within it is of their doing, and because of that, it makes them extremely terrifying. After the data crash of the 2020s caused by Raish, these regional AIs ultimately went a bit rampant and disappeared. As of right now, we do not know where they are or what state they're in. We do not know what they are doing or what they are actually capable of anymore. The only known AI that affects the world around them that we currently know of is Alt Cunningham, but the Blackwall has secured all of those powerful AIs behind it, a lot of the time to keep them safe from humans, but in some cases to keep humans safe from these devastating beings, as we saw in the Songbird mission. At the end of the Perelez quests, Johnny speaks about how this whole thing seems very familiar and something connected to rogue AIs, and leaves it like that. But it makes a lot of sense that Mr. Blue Eyes could be part of this, and is in fact an AI in human form. It's in the lore that rogue AIs are desperate to find a way out of their captivity and find human hosts to live within. The Maelstrom members is a prime example of that, and there's even a theory that a lot of Maelstrom members are in fact possessed by AIs, hence their obsession with cyberware and the red glow and the endless cyber psychosis. AIs are also incredibly smart, patient, and do things based on calculations. Mr. Blue Eyes is extremely factual, has very little emotion from our very brief encounter with him, and has an extremely hidden past, with Victor Vector finding absolutely zero information on who he is or what his past has been, stating that he's either incredibly good at hiding who he is, or he has links to very high up ranking corporations who have hidden his history from them, such as Night Corp for example. He's clearly an influential man, and AI would want to target him to get a say on the world around him. If they were to take over him and his organization, whatever that might be, they could also target extremely influential people around him and slowly convert them into hosts for other rogue AIs, similar to how they were manipulating Perelez. Him being there at the end of Songbird's mission to me highlights something as well. The Blackwall was being massively manipulated during this time, and he was right there to witness it. It seems to me he could be harnessing that power for himself as well, or was part of the Blackwall that was quickly overwhelming Songbird, or at least he was observing what the Blackwall was fully capable of. And if he is an AI and can see what the power of the Blackwall can do, then that's absolutely terrifying. But it could also be that he was one of the AIs that was released by the NUSA during their years experimenting down within Sinosure. His appearance during this specific part of the quest can't be coincidental. He clearly has some involvement with the Blackwall or the NUSA, or at least a high corporation within Night City, like I mentioned, like with Night Corp. And if he were a rogue AI in a body, I think that would make the most sense of all. He could even be the lower orbit regional AI, and that could explain why he was so familiar with what was going on within the Crystal Palace and could be utilizing V to turning it into an AI hotspot for his fellow rogue AIs. And if that were true, that could fit the theories of both the conspiracy theorists and the AI theory that technically he is from space. It's just that he's a regional AI from space. Ultimately, we don't know anything about Mr. Blue Eyes apart from the small details that have major consequences on the world currently in 2077. But he's an absolutely fascinating character despite very little in terms of lines or appearing in the game, but what he could lead to is very exciting and terrifying as well. I personally go down the route of him being massively linked with the rogue AIs, and that is why he is trying to grab as many influential individuals as possible, like Jefferson Perelez and maybe even V, and to me he is most likely one of the first rogue AIs that was successfully put into human body without it turning cyber psychotic. And speaking of AIs taking over bodies, that brings us onto our final mystery, a mystery that is a combination of both 2077 as well as Cyberpunk Red. Angel is a character that is very briefly brought in at the end of the short story called Black Dog from Cyberpunk Red. I won't talk too much about this story because it's a great one to read yourself, or if you don't like reading, I made a read-through video of it the other month, so go check that out. Ultimately though, a group of Edgerunners are sent out on a mission to deliver a package retrieved from the hot zone at Ground Zero by a firefighter named Samantha Stevens. Within the package, the group find it is an unexploded nuke owned by Arasaka, a nuke that they housed in case of of an emergency and they needed to erase their data quickly. However, as Militech were the ones to set off their own nukes, this one remained intact. However, inside this package was another hidden machine, that being a cryo chamber that the crew didn't know anything about. When they finally deliver it to this character of Angel, and without stating who it was, would open it up and state the phrase, "Hello, my love." The key thing about that phrase was that this whole gig was set up due to one member wanting to find out more information about Johnny Silverhand's recording of the song called Black Dog. Throughout all of it, they talk about Johnny Silverhand, and even their client Samantha is a massive fan who knows about this rare recording, owning her own copy, but it's heavily encrypted. Ultimately, if they delivered this package, she would give them that recording. It's pretty much guaranteed that this has to be Johnny's body, which immediately brings about the question, if this is true and his body is now here, why in 2077 do they believe it is located just outside of the city? Granted, it's been over 30 years since the event, and maybe Adam Smasher hunted it down again and returned it to Night City for some reason. But it is bizarre that everyone is so certain that Johnny is buried in Night City, when clearly this story tells of another situation. But the most baffling thing is, who is Angel, and why is she so obsessed with Johnny's body that she'd be willing to hide it amongst a nuclear weapon owned by Arasaka? Well, just looking at her whole physical appearance, it would be hard not to draw similarities to Alt Cunningham. They're both incredibly good looking, both blonde, and both have gold plating on their cyber arm, which, granted she doesn't have it in 2077, but in the book's description of her in Red and prior, she has this design so that she can hide a weapon within it. We know that Johnny was absolutely in love with Alt despite the on and off relationship they had and the constant fighting, but after the events of 2013, he was devastated with how she went out, so much so that he threw himself into the Arasaka Tower in 2023 to try and save her from the mainframe. But you're probably thinking, this is probably just another girlfriend of Johnny's, someone just as obsessed, and that could be the case. However, at the end of the Never Fade Away story, a story I have covered as well as the Black Dog one, just before Johnny and his team supposedly saves Alt from Toshiro Harade and Arasaka's experiments of the Soul Killer, Alt was preparing to leave her captivity within the net and go back into her body. She was that skilled of a netrunner that she could dive back into her physical form despite everything thrown at her. It was Johnny unplugging her from the mainframe that stopped her coming back. Angel, however, is clearly a techie, far removed from civilization, and runs a facility that was said to neutralize nuclear weapons all on her own, most likely utilizing the net or a mainframe that she could connect to. It would not be the craziest thing to think that maybe Alt, during her 42 years stuck in the net, was able to find a way outside of it and put her engram or digital construct into a new body that she could body sculpt once again into how she wants it to look, which is how she made her appearance look the first time. She completely body sculpted herself to look as beautiful as possible. At the end of the day, the Soul Killer design was of her making. She developed it even though she absolutely hated it, and actually communicated with the construct whilst in the net, telling it she was its controller and to do what she wanted. She had all of the tools and skills to break free from this digital domain, and if anyone could do it, it would be Alt. That said, it might not have been another body. We actually do not know what happened to Alt's body after Never Fade Away. This could actually be Alt's physical form, just with her consciousness back in it. The other clue to Angel being Alt comes from the fact that she had a genuine recording of the final session Johnny Silverhand had when recording Black Dog, which she hands over to our crew. That either means she is just an incredible techie and could decrypt heavily damaged recordings, or she was with Johnny or in his presence watching him through the net in some way. She does state that she was just a major fan, but it seems to be extremely coincidental and would suggest to me that she was there on the day of the recording, possibly communicating with Johnny, as we know the two made contact years after the events of 2013. The fact that the two stories bookend each other in the Cyberpunk Red core rulebook must have some importance. To start the book off with Johnny losing Alt as she is grabbed by goons, to then end the book with Alt saying "Hello my love" seems extremely poetic, and I refuse to believe that was just a coincidence. But the reason for why I bring up this mystery in terms of 2077 is, if Angel actually is Alt and she broke free from containment, then who is the Alt we are talking to within the net in 2077? Is this actually Alt, or is this a copy of her, which then brings about the major talking point of copies? We know that the whole concept of the relic is about copying over someone's soul to then implant it into another body copy at a later date. But the question gets brought up about how much is that copy actually remembering. We've already talked about Johnny's false memories from 2077, about how he thinks of himself as a hero during gigs, and that's warped what the actual facts are. Morgan Blackhand doesn't exist, Shy-Tan is pushed away, Samurai have a gig just before the Arasaka HQ bombings. There's a lot of misinformation within these memories. We then have Jackie Wells, who has been copied but not very well, as he quotes the same things over and over again for eternity. Jay Gray, one of the writers of the Cyberpunk Red world, went on to state that he likes to see memories a lot like digital photocopies, where the more you copy them, the more they lose details, and that might explain exactly what is happening within Johnny's engram in 2077. If that's the case and Johnny is just a copy, or that copies can be made of souls or engrams, then maybe that is something Alt created for Arasaka unwillingly or just on her own, and Arasaka figured it out as well. Maybe the first creation of a copy was with herself, and discovering that meant she could circumvent both the net and the real world at the same time, gaining extra knowledge for herself about everything going on, whilst being able to live a regular life wherever she might be. I think it's extremely interesting that both V and Johnny comment about how this Alt isn't actually Alt, but just a digital construct with the resemblance of her. And most would say that it is actually Alt, but that she's been trapped in the net for over 60 years, and that's meant her social skills and humanity have been lost. But considering she went on to create places like ghost towns in the net for lost souls, I find it hard to imagine she would have lost her humanity. It would have been more likely she has copied over her knowledge and skills into another engram or digital construct and kept all of her empathy and emotions in her first engram, if that makes any sense. I feel like I'm just waffling at this point. We also know from 2023 that Spider Murphy uploaded multiple parts of Alt's AI into different parts of the net. So clearly copies are possible. And speaking of Spider Murphy, to this date we do not know where she is, and same with Angel. So maybe they are both out there together in the net or in the real world. Whilst it's not really a major talking point in Cyberpunk 2077's story, I think the links to Red and the concepts of what an engram is and what humanity is makes Alt's story extremely interesting. It's hard to believe that she is just this heartless AI engram now that is incredibly powerful but has no more humanity in her. I do not believe, considering she is the maker of the Soul Killer program, that she would have just remained in the net all of that time, especially when she had so many plans on what she wanted to do when she was escaping Arasaka's grasp. Ultimately, she wanted to go into hiding, and that seems to be exactly what Angel is doing. But I guess that'll have to be something to explore in another game or a book or something else. What do you think of all these mysteries though? Are there any theories you have, and have I stumbled upon any you haven't heard before? Let me know in the comments below. But with that all said, this has been some of the unsolved mysteries from Cyberpunk 2077. I want to say a massive thank you for watching this video, and as mentioned, let me know what your theories are on the mysteries in the comments below. I'm so intrigued to read them and see what theories you've come up with. Also, I want to know if you think that some of the theories I've put forward make any sense at all. A huge thank you to VITURE for sponsoring this video and for these incredible XR glasses. They're absolutely incredible to use and stunning in design as well. Perfect for all of those Cyberpunk collectors. So make sure you get some if you are interested, because once they are gone, that'll be it. There's only 10,000 out there, so do not miss out. The link is in the description below. Thanks to my patrons as well for their endless support, including my small fishes, my YouTube channel Wise Ones, Video Gamer 75, Sith Lord 906, Planet Nanotarium, V3XXE and Ethan Feldman, my big fishes This Mind of Mine and Anthony Bonfiglio, my shark Dan F, my megalodons Hazy Thoughts and Sinus, and my incredible starfish Nanohertz. But with that all said, thank you once again for watching this video, and I shall see you all in the next one. Cheers.